One.
Welcome to yet another exciting session of Mercedes Dialogues. I'm Neha Serene and I'm here to answer all the questions you may have as far as Mercedes is concerned. I'm ready. Just kidding. I've got the man for you, Roland Folger, here with me, MD and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India. He's going to answer all your questions.
All of them.
Thank you, Roland, for joining us.
It's
and
a pleasure.
Thank you for sending me these exciting questions that I could ask Roland. Remember, we're going live, so we are taking questions live. So take a moment, jot them down, and we're going to try to get them in as well. Beginning with the first question for you, Roland. This one is from Raj Patanvadia. He's from Pune in Maharashtra. That's where the head office is, isn't it?
Correct. So
Right?
greetings to Pune.
Greetings to Pune. And his question for you is, what makes every AMG stand apart from its competitors?
Well, that's an easy one to start. Thank you very much again for the question from Pune. Raj, the main difference for the AMGs is basically in all of its competitors is we've been around now for 50 years, meaning we have a lot of compassion for the racing and we have a lot of history and experience that we can bring to the field as well. That said, it's also the Formula One connection that distinguishes us from all and most of our competitors out there. We can draw a lot from our experience in the Formula One racing and the Deutsche Tourenwagenmeisterschaften that we can then bring into the development of our vehicles. And with the recent introduction of GTs, you can easily see what that does lead to. And that's why we're so happy with our AMG program.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that we're here celebrating 50 glorious years of AMG. And you've been in India for the last 2.5 years, am I right?
Close to, yeah.
Yeah. So how have you seen the landscape in the last 2 years itself evolve here in India?
Well, what we have seen recently is that with our stronger promotion of the AMG brand, moving closer to customers by setting up 5 AMG performance centers across India so far, we have been bringing the brand closer to the customers. And suddenly this, I would say, more laid-back Mercedes-Benz brand that was supposedly always only for the rich and famous and the elderly is now becoming much, much, much younger than it used to be. And it also contributes positively to the way the brand is seen. So
I have
very
so
positive.
many questions to ask you on that one, but I think I need to get back to asking you questions here. This one is from Hyderabad, B.S. Srinivas, and he asks, what is the difference between AMG and non-AMG cars?
From Mercedes, in that
From
case.
Mercedes, yes, under the umbrella.
I think what we have in AMG is something that defines very, very clearly the difference there. And that is this one man, one machine concept. Because AMG from its earliest days onwards has always made sure that there's a high level of responsibility that people feel within their company. Because we're producing vehicles for actually the highest demanding customers out there that use these vehicles also for racing. And in order to enhance that experience, very early on, they had decided at AMG that only one person should assemble one engine. Therefore, the closeness of that engineer to his personal engine that he signs off with his name actually brings that kind of a
Intimacy?
Intimacy is a good word, and responsibility to the play. And that makes I think our whole concept much, much more responsible and responsive also to customer needs and changes. And customers were traditionally always blown away when they managed to go to our plant to pick up their own vehicles and they could meet the guy who actually manufactured that engine for them.
One man, one machine. I love it. The next question, and this is a great one in the times that we live in today, so much innovation happening out there. So what are your views, Roland, and on hybrid and electric cars segment in India? And this one is from Alpesh Jain from Udaipur.
So all again, greetings to Udaipur. Good question, because that is something that is at the moment moving and shaking the whole industry. Recently, the government had decided to lessen their support of hybrid vehicles and not give tax breaks anymore to hybrid vehicles. That will have a change on hybrid vehicles will be sold in India and developed in the future. For us as a company, we are putting a lot more emphasis actually on the introduction of Euro 6 or Barrage Stage 6 in the local market, because we believe long-term in the diesel, in its properties, the benefits that it has on CO2 emissions, and therefore we would like to see that also go into the future. And we're doing everything from our side to really try to introduce Euro 6 at a possibly earlier stage in India. That's our commitment. But beyond that, actually, we're looking also into a brand that we have just recently coined, EQ, which is the combination of intelligence combined with e-mobility, and we're looking into all the possible ways and means how our country and our company can contribute more to electric drive by designing and by later on also marketing naturally electrically powered vehicles and also solely electrically powered vehicles. So we're not missing the boat at the moment. We're basically out there, and we basically will be able to fulfill all the needs that customer might have in that context.
We're looking forward to that.
Yes.
Talking about the research and development, how would the research and development work driven by Mercedes-Benz India impact the engineering capabilities of Indian engineers? And we have Prem from Mumbai asking this question. He also wants to know how he can be a part of it.
Well, apply. It's very simple. No, these are our colleagues, I think, in Bangalore. We have a research and development center there of a significant size in the meantime. And just to correct that maybe misconception, actually the R&D center there works for Mercedes-Benz in a global responsibility. So they help develop vehicles that are sold around the globe. It's not just a function of India and for India. We have more than 4,000 highly dedicated, highly motivated and highly experienced engineers there that basically do work time and very closely linked with their German colleagues on a day-to-day routine basis. But again, going back to your initial question, just apply. It's Mercedes-Benz RDI in Bangalore. My good friend Manu Saleh is the head, so you just write directly to him.
All right, then moving on. The next question is a bit of a personal nature. This one is from Anup Sachdeva from Panchkula, and he wants to know, what is your favorite and why? Is it the G55 AMG or the G63?
Tough choice. Actually, the G63, I just had this experience back in Germany. I was for a vacation there and also for some business meetings. And what was really an exhilarating experience was to take the G63 out on a German highway with no speed limitings. The only thing that's a little bit of a downside, if you have to pay for the gasoline yourself, that comes as a shock. But there is nothing more exhilarating than having a 2.5-ton vehicle that you can easily accelerate than like any other sports car out there.
So we've got a question just coming in from Swati Khandelwal, and she wants to know, is Mercedes ready to take on Tesla when it comes to India?
No, but that's also not our intention at the moment, because Tesla is one of the fast movers that wants to come to India, has indicated that they come to India, has also offered to Indian customers with a down payment that they would provide them with vehicles. Maybe that was a little bit premature, because the latest statement that we heard from Elon Musk was more in the side of like, oops, maybe we did a little bit of a mistake. They didn't realize that there are some limitations that you have when you want to bring your vehicles and sell them. Their concept is heavily based on selling and retailing directly themselves. And in India, you can only do that, if I'm correct, and I understand this correctly, you can only do that if you manufacture locally. Now, the Indian market at the moment is not yet ready for that local manufacturing, obviously. So we'll have to see what comes out of that discussion at the moment. We are going to be ready for that kind of a discussion at the latest in 1 or 2 years. So I'm happily looking forward to that additional challenge as well.
Well, Mercedes is such a global brand, and you know, there's something about the Indian consumer that I would like to personally know. What makes them different from, you know, the global ones that you interact with?
I think very demanding customers, first of all. Because of the price point that we ask and your average income levels here in India, the customer has every right to demand more. Whether that comes from the taxes or whether that comes from our pricing is immaterial. The customer feels he is owed something. Plus, the specific clientele that we usually have are people that are highly successful in their business. So again, their demand to their environment is to support them better. And I think that's where our present service concept comes in, because we have been investing massively to satisfy customers better into our service programs, into the training of our dealership personnel. We have invested massively also in developing newer processes that are highly stable and ensure for the customer a very, very high degree of satisfaction in the ownership of his vehicle.
Yeah, and I'm sure your sales reflect that as well.
To a certain degree, yes.
So we've got Guru Prasad from Bangalore, and he wants to know, why can't Mercedes provide a service cost indicator which explains what parts will be replaced and its cost? So that kind of feeds well into the previous question.
What we have been trying to do is exactly for that reason, because with the influx of a lot of completely new customers that never had been able to own a Mercedes before, because of new vehicles that we brought into the marketplace, these customers come from a background where the service costs that they are have been charged are significantly lower. Yeah. Now with a brand like Mercedes, with the advanced technologies that we introduce to our vehicles, that needs to go hand in hand with a highly trained force of salespeople and service people especially. So in order to cater for that, our turnover as far as training is concerned, the things that we need to update continuously, also greatly influencing our cost levels. But what people did not realize in the past was that some of our spare parts were more expensive, mainly due to the fact that they last much longer than the competition spare parts. So in order to put our money where our mouth is, we have basically gone out and created service packages that for the customer can provide a completely hassle-free experience. And we started massively investing into that, especially with the new E-Class. And I think the massive increase also of our service package installation rates is speaking volumes about how much customers appreciate that kind of an offer. And it's all about giving the customer the choice, no matter how long you want, 6, 7 years, how many miles you would ever look into, basically all of that is taken care of and you don't have to pay for your service charges anymore. Yeah.
So while we are on the topic of, the premiumness of the brand, there's a question from Nakul Kate from Mumbai. Are there any plans for Mercedes-Benz to compete in cost-competitive mass-market car segment in India?
None whatsoever. No, seriously, because we have...
You're going to be asked this question again, so you may as well answer it again.
Okay. No, but the whole idea that we have is, and that's why we never have an intention to go into the mass market really to that extent, is we have a certain genetic heritage that we try to defend. It's our value system, and that basically defines a certain minimum requirement on safety issues and safety features. We build cars around the globe that are similar to one another, so we're not producing a German car that can go very fast on the highway, but the brake system for a country like India would be differently. We don't do that. Yeah? So basically you can take any car from Germany. Well, you can't because of the limitations that we have on the emission systems, but hypothetically speaking, from a performance aspect, you can drive every car in India that we produce here locally to the same standards that we do a German car. And we're not going to sacrifice on that. So there is no way, also therefore, logically speaking, why we would want to enter the lower segment where prices, margins are lower, just to create some volume. That is not in our interest.
So Nakul, to answer your question, sorry buddy, not gonna happen. I feel your pain as well, but let's move on to the next question. This one is from Basir Hazare from Hyderabad, and he wants to know, can you recall some sweet moments, and I'm sure there are many in there, of AMG and its association with Mercedes-Benz?
There's many sweet moments actually out there. The one that I recall specifically was about 3 or 4 years ago when I was still based in Malaysia. We had an invitation by our colleagues from the headquarters to go for a regional board meeting to Dubai. And as a surprise, they picked us having a chance to drive 8 different AMG models to drive on the Dubai Formula 1 racing circuit.
Wonderful.
So we had rented that for 3 hours and could drive our hearts out. And I nearly threw up. Because if you are in such a racing situation and you have a professional race driver leading a pack of vehicles, I got the AMG, the A-Class 45, and I was trying to keep up with the pack. And being massively basically outpowered by 700 horsepower vehicles. The A45 has only about 385 horsepower. You need to basically catch up with them in the cornering. You can't do that on a long straight. And that means you have to brake later and accelerate faster and earlier than anybody else in the team. And that was a grueling experience. For over an hour we tried to do that. It was a lot of fun. I'll never forget it.
Do you consider yourself a good driver?
No. No, I'm an average driver. I have some experience with driving because I've been with an automotive company, Mercedes-Benz specifically, for nearly 40 years. But that doesn't automatically make you a really outstanding driver. But I'm doing okay.
All right, so we've got the next question from New Delhi. This one is Wahid Rahman, and he says, how does one work his or her way into an F1 team, especially someone with a mechanical engineering degree, and how to get into it?
Yes, same issue, the same question that I basically responded before. You need to apply. But it's really a grueling process, the people all that I've met also personally, and I asked them the same question, how do you get into a Formula One team? It's you need to go through a whole length of educational and also training. In order to do that, you need to work your way up the hierarchy. You start in a smaller racing team, then you know, like Formula 3000 or anything else, and then you work your way up into the bigger stalls. And then you might get picked or not might get picked. But if you think that there is maybe in the Formula One a total of nearly 8,000 mechanics around, and only the few best one get picked for the real big teams, chances are very, very slim that you're going to manage that. And it's also not such a nice experience because half of the year you're traveling with the Formula One group, hardly any contact at home, always out there on the road trying to get the vehicles ready. Then the testing season comes. It's a very grueling job that most people don't really appreciate of how much impacts also your personal life.
Well, shifting gears now from the race track to the roads of India. The next question is from Swapnil Nagpur, and he wants to know what's the future of AMG range in India, and do we see good traction in 2018?
Well, of course, our program is always to grow, and especially with a brand like AMG, where we have now the potential, especially for the Indian place, in the Indian market, with the 43 versions, to go into a completely different segment that we have not been able to get into really so far. I think we have redefined also what luxury sports cars means in the context of India. And we see quite a strong growth potential. That's why we also have decided in the course of this year that before the end of the year, we're going to move into 2 more AMG performance centers. One is in Cochin, the other one is in Chennai, because we see such a strong growth potential in these marketplaces as well. So everything looks green.
Everyone out there, especially all the Mercedes fans, are very excited about the latest offering, which is the GLC 43 Coupe. What makes your latest product, the GLC 43 Coupe, so unique and stand out? And this question is from Sachin from Bangalore.
Hello to Bangalore. I would say the GLC is the first combination because of the coupe form of the vehicle, the shape of the vehicle, the design of the vehicle, which I personally just love. And that in combination with the 43 AMG
And pause,
setup.
pause. I've seen the car. It's fabulous. I love the white one. Which is your personal favorite one?
More the hyacinth red, actually. Okay. I love these kind of cars to stick out a little bit more. And the white one is just another white one on Indian roads. But I love this kind of flashy, reddish tinted hyacinth red.
Is that why you were gravitating more towards that one?
Of course.
So the next question is from Nidhi Khanna, Mumbai. Will the GLC Coupe be launched with a V8 engine anytime soon?
Not at the moment in our planning. We have to see how the overall volume development goes. At the moment, there is not a specific need that we have heard from customers in the marketplace. We are highly reactive, so whenever there is a need for such vehicles, we can certainly would be able to bring them into the country.
And you know, as far as innovation goes, what's the most exciting feature in the car?
In the GLC specifically now at the moment, I think it's this combination of having a highly sporty design vehicle that then is combined also with that kind of a drivetrain that produces on top of 384 horsepower. It's a perfect combination in my book. So very well done there, the guys in Germany.
Rudra Mukherjee from Kolkata wants to know, why are all the AMGs launched in petrol variants and not diesel?
I think it goes hand in hand at the moment, and there have been discussions along those lines as well, that should be some consideration. At the moment, I would say that again, we're learning a lot from Formula One in that respect as well, that a lot of the high-performance vehicles are still, at the moment, better run, especially in the acceleration phase as well, but also in the top speed, with the based on petrol. So that's why practically all of our AMG versions are petrol only. So
we've got Adrian from Bangalore. And his question is, why are AMG models only imported and not locally produced? Are there any plans to have a local production unit and make the AMGs more affordable?
I think we would be the first ones to love to do that. We have a certain, I would say, threshold where it becomes interesting for us to produce vehicles in the Indian market for the Indian market. And that is at the moment nowhere where any of our AMG vehicles would reach into. Which is again an explanation why we're driving a volume game as well in the Indian marketplace, because we believe the higher the volume in the Indian marketplace could be, the more it justifies also investments into producing these vehicles locally. But all of the AMG variants at the moment are still significantly away from that threshold.
Well, it's been 50 glorious years for AMG. What's in store for the next 50?
Well, that remains to be seen, because also naturally the challenge comes, what are we going to do with the electric drives? There is a Formula One electric now in the meantime. That remains, and AMG has built actually an SLS, the e-tron, I think it was called, that was purely driven electric. So the challenge is going to be, what can we do also with an AMG brand, and how can we take that one electric as well? We're studying it, we're looking at it, but sky's the limit.
Sky is the limit.
Yes.
So Sushant from Bangalore has a question for you. What was the reason behind the Mercedes-Benz collaboration with AMG and not any other performance car manufacturers?
I was actually there, and I was partly in charge for that kind of a buyout that we did with AMG. I think it was the approach to exclusivity. AMG only, from its first days, was only focusing on Mercedes products and Mercedes-Benz vehicles. And then they started collaborating with us intensively. So we always had a very good feeling. And also, geographically, you have to understand, Affalterbach is only about 50, 60 kilometers away from our design and from our engineering centers. So there was always a strong collaborative spirit in working together. And all the vehicles that we did together with them, also in the pre-phase and in racing especially, where it was always based on a very, very long-standing personal good relationship. And then it was only a small step in basically saying, well, how can we support them in a larger way? And the best way that was deemed to be was that we bought over and went into a 51% share and then completely bought over AMG as well. And that has been proven to be the success story in itself, actually, if you consider that.
Absolutely. So what, according to you, is the most iconic product globally in the AMG portfolio? And this one is from Abhay Chaudhary, and he hails from Nagpur.
I think it's always the one that we recently introduced, because these are the ones that are in strongest demand.
I knew you were going to say that.
That obvious? No, it's the GT series at the moment. I think, personally, I love the SLS the most. SLS was my personal favorite, not only because of the doors that were so ultimately cool on such a vehicle and such a performance vehicle. And I had the chance once, when he was still driving, to be in an SLS with Michael Schumacher, and he took us across the course. And he personally also vetted for the vehicle. He said, it's the only vehicle that he has ever driven that gives you the feeling that this is a vehicle that can be driven by an amateur layman, but at the same time the SLS would give him a strong challenge, even him as that experience of a race driver. And I never forgot what he said about that car.
What was the first Mercedes car you ever drove or owned?
190E.
The 190E.
190E, yes.
The next question is from...
Also red, by the way.
Also red? All right. So Kanav Arora from Amritsar. Any plans of launching the Beast from the Green Hell, i.e. the GTR in India anytime soon? Also, why is it called the Beast from the Green Hell?
Yes, we do. We will launch that very soon. I'm not giving out any details yet. We have already customers queuing up for that car. It is called, by the way, the Beast of the Green Hell, because the Green Hell is part of the Nürburgring. And a section of the Nürburgring is called the Green Hell. And the Beast is because with that car, we basically broke every records that had ever been set in that specific area of the racetrack as well. And with setting new records, naturally, that's something that we are extremely proud of. And at the same time, we could launch it with a really cool green color that we had never before in our portfolio. So that went together very well.
Well, the competition's going to go red at that.
Hopefully, yes.
So a little birdie tells me that you are a golfer.
Yes.
Right? So how many deals
have
you how many deals have you cracked on the golf course?
Deals on the golf course, not as many as you would think, because I'm trying to separate a little bit business and private golfing. But I'll always remember a customer that I met when I was still based in Singapore. And he was actually a big investor who wanted to do a major deal with us. And I never forget what he told me. He says, you will always learn something about that person when you play with them on a golf course. How they cheat, how do they deal with success, how do they deal with failure and everything. And it was a pretty good advice, and I've taken that to heart.
Sport is an extension of life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the next question from Viraj Dhan Panji Goa says, what was your most memorable experience with an AMG? Which model from the range was it with?
The most recent one, like the G63 that I was able to drive in Germany. It gives you a scare, actually, because of the acceleration, but there's nothing better than driving it with open windows and an open roof and just listening to the grumbling of the car. I had the whole family with me in the vehicle, and everybody, besides maybe my wife, who doesn't like us to drive so fast, but certainly my son and daughter enjoyed it tremendously. It's a combination of sound, of the acceleration of a 2.5-ton vehicle that you have to experience to understand. But it's unforgettable. And it's always the newest vehicle also, which makes that really, really interesting.
So the next question you've sort of already answered, but maybe there's another unique feature to the all-new GLC Coupe. And this one is from Akshay Chaturvedi from Lucknow.
The most unique feature of the vehicle, I don't know at the moment, because it's a combination of things that we try to do. What I love personally most about the vehicle is actually its design. It looks ultimately cool in the coupe form. It provides everything that you might need in the Indian context as well.
And you love that it's red. One of the variants.
Well, that's certainly not the most unique feature of the vehicle. but its four-wheel drive capability makes it especially good for Indian roads because you have higher clearance. You also in the monsoon area with the four-wheel drive, you know, you never need to worry whether you get home or not. So that's a positive feature, and that all in a package that is highly attractive and incredibly interestingly priced at 74.8 lakhs. So yeah.
74.8 lakhs.
Yep.
Well, we have one last question for you, Roland, before you leave us. And this one is from Raj Patanvadia from Pune, Maharashtra. And he wants to know what makes every AMG stand apart from its competitors. Easy.
Well, first of all, that it's a Mercedes. That's what makes it stand apart, I think. But not only that, it's basically the attention to detail. It's basically the availability of such a huge and experienced network. At the same time, customer dedication par none. If you go as an AMG customer ever to our AMG plant and you experience how they treat you, how they show you around, also the 50 years of history, I think nobody else is out there with coming even close. So that storyline itself is a success story. And I think we'll continue along the line there, and we're not going to ease up on the sportiness of our products. It helps us a great deal in India, by the way, because simply AMG is transforming also the way that Mercedes-Benz as a brand is seen in India. It has been able to reduce the average age of 37 customer age down to 30. That means we are opening up a completely new segment of customers for the brand by also introducing such a sporty brand. And then again, it reflects very, very positively overall on the brand. So we're happy with that direction, and we're going to stick with it.
Well, I'm happy that you took out the time to sit here with us on Mercedes Dialogues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks a lot to all of our viewers.
Yes, thank you for sending such exciting questions and making this such an engaging session at Mercedes Dialogues. Until the next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.